Hello, investors. It is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Friday, December 6th, about 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, uptrend, nothing has changed there. And when we look at the trend gauge, this is exactly what we want to see. The four coveted green arrows, market leaders are acting well in grow mode. Short term, we're trading above the 21 EMA. Medium term, trading above the 50 SMA. And then long term, trading above the 200 SMA as well. And basically just keep riding the wave. S&P 500, another weekly all-time high close, and many of the leaders were flexing again today. So here are the final numbers. 21 over 21 list up 2.36%, 16 green, 5 red. Big 8 up 1.5%. Tesla flexing today up 5.34%. And it was kind of quiet until about the last hour of the day. It really ramped into the close. RG8 up 1.09%, S&P 500 up 0.25%, RSP down 0.11%, QQQ up 0.89%, equal weight up 0.82%, Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.35%, mid caps up 0.02%, Russell 2000 up 0.37%, 60/40 stock and bond up 0.18%, and then in-house GROTECTION up 1.07% on the day. So as usual, get into the inter-asset correlation, and we'll start with the S&P 500. And, there's not too much to comment on this. I mean, we are just trending higher, making higher lows, higher highs, and, the trend is your friend until it bends. And I've seen, some people fearful lately. And I mean, maybe you have your reasons to be scared, but, there is no reason to trade in fear. We've talked about some of this stuff on the videos before, but we're selling stuff into strength. We're raising stops every single day. We go into the trading day knowing our open heat. And what that means is if every single position in the portfolio got their stop hit, we exactly know how much we'd lose on the portfolio. And so, like realistically, how many people are doing that? So that gives you that factor that you always know what could happen. And just so you know what you're risking on the open table. So nothing should be a surprise if there was a waterfall day. But I mean, we're just ride the trend. These look back here. These can go way higher than you think. And the pink and green line, this is the 8 and 21 day moving average. The market does its best work when these are trending up and to the right, and we remain in that environment. Take a look at the weekly chart, continues to build higher. And then actually we can look at some of these extensions here. We are only about 3.5% above the 50-day moving average. Historically speaking, we've got much more extended from that before. So that's kind of what we're watching, and we're just taking it day by day. RSP equal weight, pulling back to the 21 day looks pretty normal. Expect the trend to continue for this spot to hold. So could be a good risk to reward here. QQQ, again, continued relative strength. And I mentioned on the video, you saw that slight relative strength line hooking back above the 21 day. And now you can see you're getting that outperformance in tech right now with, you look at Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Netflix, some great action across the board in some of the big tech names. And you can see here's the Mag 7 ETF, broke out of this downtrend line here, kind of retest the top of this base breakout. 6 strong up days in a row would be totally normal for this to pull back, digest a little bit. Dow Jones, just trading in this tight little range box here. Mid caps, again, pretty favorable setup into next week. We'll see. Forming a nice little flag here with the 21 day catching up to price. Russell 2000, same look here. Nice little bull flag here off the 21 day. ARC, I'm just continuing to keep this in here because this is where a lot of money is right now. A lot of speculative growth. 2020 winners are making huge comebacks. We actually talked today and said this is probably the best environment for stage 1 breakouts that I've ever seen. And you can see ARC is doing just that and falling through to the upside. You can look at some recent ones just to give you a picture. Twilio, just textbook. Toast was another one, and Roblox is another one. And you can see this is a setup theme that I would call it, is when you see a lot of the same setups across many different stocks. So good action there. VIX, we got the 12 handle today, and this continues to grind lower. The ATR, the S&P 500, continues to contract, and that's when we see that lower volatility and outperformance in stocks. Dollar, putting a hammer at the 21-day, continue to monitor this. Gold looks like a bear flag below the 50-day moving average. GDX, another bear flag as well. And yeah, that the relative strength line tells the whole story here. Just continued making lower lows. Silver, again, this one looks like a bear flag off the 50-day. Bitcoin, this was the move over 100,000, and it really ran up hard, was over about 105,000. And then after hours, actually yesterday around want to say like 6:30 Eastern time, Bitcoin plunged pretty hard into that 91,000 level, and it was looking like a failed breakout for a little bit, but reclaimed today. This one still looks good. Bigger picture just looks great, and into the halvening cycle, historically, it's bullish. Bonds getting back above the 50-day moving average, TLT as well, coincides with rates coming lower, kind of moving lower out of these little bases here. So that's the inter-asset correlation. Let's get into the tail of the tape. VIX 12 handle, that's good to see. And this can stay pinned into the 11, 12 area for quite some time. Percent of stocks above the 5-day moving average, getting a little bit extended, but not overly. And so that's just kind of meandering in that area right now. We got the jobs report this morning, and we gapped up initially. It was a pretty good report, and then we kind of consolidated for the day. Keys, we continue to hold above 60.50. The Qs holding above 516. Mid and small caps are still watching that for a breakout into next week. I just obviously touched on the setup. And then Bitcoin reclaimed 100K again today, so that breakout looks in check. And still going to watch the same things. Obviously, I think mid small caps into next week will be a big tell if they can break through those downtrend lines. Up 5, 11 days above the 8, 14 days above the 21. Sectors wise, Bitcoin, WGMI, this is Bitcoin miners, biotech with rates coming down, IGV. I did a segment on the podcast today about software, and I'll cover it when I get into the charts. But I mean, that is like one of the strongest places to be in the market right now. I mean, you can look at names like APP, Palantir, CRM. There's just a bunch of software stocks that are acting well. Semiconductors coming back today as well. And then weakness, oil, utilities, uranium. In-house today, the only thing we did was we added onto our URTY position, and our beta is up to 2 from 1.95. Bottom line, ride the wave. S&P 500 weekly all-time high close, leaders flex, and let's get into some of the charts. So sectors-wise, I wanted to talk about IGV, and you can see just very powerful. And you can look at the weekly, and this is just coming out of this huge base. And we can see when you get these big base breakouts, the moves can last quite some time. And one thing that this reminds me of is semiconductors in December of 2023. You can see this is almost like a carbon copy setup, and it broke out in December of 2023, and then obviously had a very strong push. And the ETF doesn't really do it that much justice. You can look at some of the stocks during that period, right? Avgo, NVIDIA, those had some very powerful moves. So thought that was interesting. I covered small caps with the URTY ad today. Let's get into the 21 over 21 list. Reddit, super powerful. Really can't ask for more. Just continue. This is an environment that you want to let your winners work. This always changes. So sometimes you can be in a type of market where you want to buy support, sell resistance, take your 10 to 25% gain when you have it. But this type of market where you want to give stuff more room and let things ride, because a lot of them are just respecting the moving averages and making it easy to hold as long as you have cushion. Palantir, this is another one. Like, right, like if you're selling this early, you're missing out on this big move. Just extremely strong. SMR, undercut and reclaim of the 21 day. These nuclear stocks still act pretty well. This is the leader. CRDO, we own this. I just flagged this actually. And yeah, had that strong earnings gap, pulled back day two, and then mentioned this before, set alerts for high volume closes. And you can see right when it got back through that high volume close, we got that kind of momentum push back through. Tesla, I mean, just 5-star action today. This setup here was just picture perfect. 3 tight days right below that 360 breakout level. And you can see it just, once it took out opening range highs, this really exploded into the close. So this one looks, I mean, extremely good. You had a monthly wick setup here, which is pretty notable. And talk about the slot, but across all time frames, Tesla looks fantastic, and it finally looks like it's ready to hit new all-time highs, which it hasn't in since 2021. So huge change in character there. ALAB continues to act great. Very similar chart to Reddit, actually, riding the moving averages higher. BE reclaiming the AEMA and this downtrend line got ants the other day. Again, this is another one. Big picture, you just got a huge kind of macro trend line break on that catalyst. And this one is just putting some tight closes on the weekly here. CLS, another powerful one, pull back to the 21, fall through. Weekly looks great. Twilio, another software stock that just fits the narrative that software stocks want to go higher. And this one started on that earnings gap and just continues to trend higher. Great action there. Bitcoin looks great. MicroStrategies, kind of forming a tight little pennant here. Still kind of following that SMCI climax action roadmap as well. But this one looks pretty good, and Bitcoin's going to continue higher. Would imagine this one continues as well, but we'll see. But we're actually starting to see a little bit of decoupling there with coin starting to become the leader in this space. And you can see breaking out of a nice little tight flag here on the daily. So that one might be the leader. Bros own this one in-house as well. It just continues to ride higher after that earnings gap. And this one I mentioned setup theme, stage one base. And this is another one that falls into that category. And it was prompted on earnings. That's another thing. This is one of the best earnings environments that I've seen in terms of gapping up and stocks moving higher. And just to give a quick refresher on that setup is, there's many ways to play it. You can buy the day one gap. You can buy, a pullback into a moving average. Sometimes they undercut that gap day low and reclaim. So sometimes you can get creative with it, but many ways to play that idea. Toast, obviously, breaking the 21 day on that news. We'll see if it reclaims next week. XPO looks good, consolidating under highs. Team, this is another software stock starting to consolidate at highs, a little bit short-term extended, but weekly, not really. It's just coming out of this base, and it was, in this period of sideways for quite some time. Snowflake, another software name, obviously huge change in character on that earnings. You can see, still some overhead here, but it's chewing through it pretty nice right now. And the daily obviously looks pretty good, breaking out of this flag and starting to move higher. Sprouts Farmers Markets, just one that just loves to trend, ride the moving averages higher. VRT looks good. Maybe starting to consolidate here above the 21 day. Deckers obviously broke out of this nice base. Now it's pulled back to the 8. Carvana, another just strong one. And then LNG in that natural gas space looks pretty good. And so I mentioned big tech, but let's just take a look through these. Obviously, Tesla looks fantastic. Amazon finally starting to work. Obviously, you had that barrier with Jeff Bezos selling every tick above 200, and now that's been absorbed, and this one's finally starting to break out and finally into all-time highs. Meta, the stock is a beast, right? Obviously holding above that 600 century mark. Netflix looks good, obviously prompted on that earnings gap and provided a couple entries. This one continues to trend higher. Google, probably one of the worst looking ones in the Mag 7. but it's back above all key moving averages and it's forming, a tight 3-day range here. Microsoft looks good, breaking this downtrend line. This is 6 days up in a row, so maybe it pulls back, forms a pivot, but it's just overall good to see these names, and they have quite some room to the upside too. And that, you would think that that would provide the cues with some more upside strength into year end. Apple looks good coming out of this base. Nvidia as well, just kind of sideways, holding the 21-day for now, which is good. And one way to play this is FNGU. This captures it as well. This is the 3 times levered, and you can see with this recent relative strength in tech, this has had a strong 6-day push up the right side. So good action there. And kind of what I mentioned earlier in the video, though, stocks are acting great. You want to give them a little bit more room. Obviously, selling into strength and managing risk is important. And then just, no one knows how high these stocks can go. APP is a prime example. You could say it was extended here, it was extended here, extended here, extended here, but this one continues to move higher. And this is just, crazy strength. A lot of these stocks are showing some pretty amazing moves. So good to see and capture them. So I think that is everything that I've got for today. That is going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is connor@revereasset.com. And then you can always reach out to Dan or Don at revereasset.com. Phone is 855-REAL-WEALTH. That is 855-732-5932. And if you're ever interested in becoming a client, as always, please reach out. And with that, I'll wrap it for Friday, December 6th. This is Connor Bates with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening. Have a good weekend.